Let's give the people what they've been waiting for. I'm Cam Wolfe, and we're here to talk Dolphins. It's training camp. It's Tua. It's Tyreek. We got a lot of stories. We got a lot of content. Let's tell you about your favorite team. It is time for the Dive Bar Podcast. Eric, hit the tape.
I'm putting the helmet on as always.
The opportunity is right now.
Terrific defensive play. Intercepted. Tagovailoa off the back. Tua on the move. Going deep. Speed race. He's got Hill. He's got Hill. The Dolphins have recaptured the lead.
Killed it.
Killed it. Let's go.
Cam, I would ask you how you're feeling, but we get it.
Okay.
Welcome home, brother. Welcome home, man.
Energy when I'm on the Dive Bar Pod, and apologies for the delay for everybody. I just wanted to make sure we build some anticipation, and I think we're rocking and rolling.
All right, Cam. Yeah, that was an awesome intro. You absolutely killed that. We're screaming in the background. You should giving you applause on that. But Cam, let's start this off. Listen, having guests on these podcasts, timing is everything. You are fresh off of Miami Dolphins training camp. First thing first, I got to ask, you've been making the rounds at camp around the league. I got two things for you. What's the overall energy and vibe of the Dolphins camp this year compared to previous years? And listen, we've heard the term culture change thrown all over around this offseason, social media, Dolphins Twitter. Give us your thoughts.
Okay, so first things first, camp. This year, it feels like there is more intentionality is the word I would say. One thing that popped out to me watching camp for a few days, guys are doing wind sprints and up downs almost after every practice. And, you know, you got penalties, you got rough groups. I saw Tua doing up downs after practice. I talked to him after practice. He said he hadn't done an up down since middle school. And so, like, I just think that there's a little bit of intentionality. Now, I got to see it in the game. I don't know how, like right now, you can do anything for show in the first week. What does it look like in September and more importantly, December and January? But I do feel like there's an intentionality with this team of we've heard the talk that we're soft and that we have no accountability and that we have no discipline. Let's show them. And that's certainly the vibe. And I'm willing to be shown. I'm willing to watch, you know. Okay. I have some of those questions, but I am willing to be shown. And so that is definitely an early thought for me. There's a lot of question marks about this team, probably more than I've had in any time in the Mike McDaniel era. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's doomed. And so I have had high expectations before to be disappointed. And now I'm maybe a little bit lower on my high expectations. And because of that, maybe I got a weird feeling that they're going to go the other way. I don't know. Maybe that's just the optimist in me. So that's it. But yeah, I'm bouncing around camp. We just did NFL Network camp with Bucky Brooks. We had Tua on live. He gave us a pretty cool introspective interview about a few different topics. I went to Jacksonville. I'm going to go to Atlanta and Carolina and Cleveland. I might pipe up to Buffalo. But I'll be back in Miami on Saturday. We'll go live. Me, Tom Pelissero, Brian Baldinger, and we'll be live from NFL Network. That's on Saturday. We'll have some interviews there. We'll have Tyreek on. There's definitely a lot people want to know from him, so we'll have Tyreek on. We'll have Mike McDaniel on. I think we're going to talk with Bradley Chubb and either Waddle or Mika. And so I definitely want to tune in Saturday, and we'll have some interviews. We'll have some analysis. Baldy's on, so we're going to talk some trenches, some O-line, some D-line, some gritty good stuff that fans want to hear. So I'm pumped, man. This is a team that not a lot of people can have their pulse on. And not a lot of people are picking them to be a Super Bowl team, but I don't think they're going to be a cellar dweller either. So they're going to be able to write their own narrative after maybe 2 or 3 years of us writing it for them.
Yeah, that's great to hear, man. Awesome week up ahead. Y'all follow Cam. Obviously, great content coming. Before we get into this too much, I do want to give a shout out to Noah Redstone for the $4.99 donation. Appreciate you, Noah. Also, I want to give a shout out. This was pretty cool. John Sharfman on Twitter was at a Fort Lauderdale hotel the morning of Jack Jones signing and said, I'm pretty sure I just walked by Jack Jones. Either he's signing with the Dolphins or he's on vacation. And an hour later, Adam Schefter dropped the news. So shout out to John Sharfman. That was pretty cool to see. It never happens. You always hear these things on Twitter and it never works, but it did. And it was awesome. Well, Cam, I want to talk about the O-line a little bit. You know, the O-line, they finally put some assets into the O-line this offseason. How's it looking? Also, at first day of pads today, Patrick Paul apparently held his own. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, P. Paul is a big boy, and he can move. And I definitely think that I can't wait to see him in the preseason and joint practices when he can be able to use that size, but also get some challenges here against some different edge rushers, because there were some snaps, whether on 11-on-11 or one-on-ones, where he just dominates a dude. And you can see him take over. And I wonder if he's one of those guys, when he gets the rhythm, he starts getting flowing. There'll be some ups and downs, of course. He's not the technician Teron is, but you can't teach that size and movement. And he's moving a lot better than he was last year. I think he told us he lost about 10, 12 pounds this offseason. I can already see it. And so I think you've got to curb your expectations because I don't think he's going to be a Teron Armstead from the jump. But I do think that long-term potential, I definitely saw enough this offseason where I'm like, I could certainly see him being the left tackle of the future. As far as the rest of the offensive line, I'm pleasantly surprised to see James Daniels rolling as well as he is. You know, coming off a torn Achilles, I certainly was skeptical that at this stage of camp we would see him doing full pad, pop-in team drills, and he is, and he's moving well. And Jonah had a really nice day as well. Jonah was going in it, and everybody who came up to Jonah got a little bit of smack. You know, he's got some nastiness about him, which I think this team was missing up front. Another guy who, you know, you may have some mistakes early. You know, he may not deal with speed always the best, but I think that he's going to be the type of physicality they want to, especially in that run blocking game, create a few more holes. Now, depth is certainly a concern for me. I don't know what happens if any of those guys I mentioned go down. But I think with that front five, if they play like I think they can play, I think you're looking at a better group than you did last year.
You know what's crazy? I'm sorry, Bobby, but I was going to just make a point about Andrew Meyer.
This dude's rogue, dude.
Because speaking of not having depth, we've heard good things about Andrew Meyer.
Yeah.
And Brewer hasn't been on the field, so you not hearing about Andrew Meyer is probably better than hearing about him as far as trenches go. So I just want to see if you were able to watch him play as well.
I have. I've watched a few snaps of Andrew Meyer. He's flashed at times for sure. It's tough with a center because a lot of times their assignment is helping, you know, a guard, you know, versus having their own assignment. And so that's one of those, I got to see you for a game, because for a center, if you make one mistake in a game, that's a bad game for a center. Whereas a guard or a tackle, you can get away with a little bit more just because of position group. So I'm not saying that you're wrong there. I'm just saying I got to see more before I can stamp it.
Sorry, Bobby. Something was on my chest and I had to get it off.
You had to get it off, Dave.
We have, so as you know, we have the private chat where we do the script. Joe is like, when he gets his idea, he has to get it out no matter what the script's saying, because he will forget. You just gotta buckle up and get ready for it. And so you touched on Jonah and what he brings to the O-line. I thought it was interesting. A lot of people thought maybe Jonah should go to the right guard to kind of be next to a vet, between two vets. They clearly said, we're just going to put the two big motherfuckers to the left, deal with the bumps, let the learning curve happen, and let them move people. Like, is that kind of what you think there?
Yeah, that's such an interesting topic, because I actually asked Jonah about it earlier, I think this past weekend. And when I asked him, I could tell he was a little hesitant because it's something he's worked on. You know, one, the Dolphins are really protective on what position groups. So we've known he's been at left guard for a while, but they don't want you to tell him. And so I was able to make a way around it where he essentially started talking about it. And he talked about the difficulties. He's like, I've been playing right guard most of my life, and it's hard, you know? And I think that this was probably something that wasn't his choice. I think if he had a choice, he probably would be playing right guard. But you're bringing a guy like James Daniels, who's the vet. The vet sometimes gets your right of first refusal. You paid him some money. You might have told him some things in free agency. And, that's where you go. But I think he can still have some success. I think what's interesting that people will forget is you got a left-handed quarterback. And so your blind side is a different side. Also, your strengths of what you do on your line are different. Typically, your right side is your power side. You have your big right guard, you got your big right tackle, and you run all your physicality off the right side. What they're setting up, they can set that left side up to essentially be flipped. Be your blind side for Tua, also your power side with big Patrick Paul, big Jonah on that side, and you can run your powerful running stuff over there. But if you're running more athletic stuff with Austin Jackson and James Daniels on the other side, it makes a little bit more sense. I am intrigued to see like how he handles the adjustment. The scheme is similar to what they were running in Arizona, but I think there was a famous veteran guard that told us years ago that playing a different side of the line is like wiping your ass with the other hand. And he told us to try it and see if it's the same. And I went home and tried it, and it's not the same. I don't have the same confidence, the same, veracity. And I understand a little bit more where you can do it, just not as well.
Right.
I'm definitely trying to wipe my ass with my left hand. I'm giving it a shot.
Yeah, it might get a little messy. Who knows? It just depends on your amount
here
of
for the learning curve
and the strength there,
So I wanted to go to the defensive side of the ball real quick. Chop Robinson has been phenomenal this camp. What did you see out of him that really shows that he's going to break out this year to be the player we expect him to be?
Yeah, the guy that's been mentioned the most out of any player of Dolphins that I've talked to. Like every year, that's always my question I love to ask guys. Tell us a guy that's going to break out that we may or may not be talking about. And there's always a different name each year. Chop's been the favorite this year. And what's so intriguing is like guys are going out of their way to point out the fact that he sees the doubts about him stopping the run. He sees that people were saying he's just a speed rusher, one-dimensional, and that he not only was improving upon that second half of the year, he's made it a mission to that's not what people say about him. Oh, he's a really good rusher, but he can't defend the run, but he can't set the edge. And so I think you're going to see a motivated, more complete rusher for Chop. And I can't wait to see like what Anthony Weaver has as far as packages for these guys. I mean, we can't talk a lot about what practice, but they've already had a little bit of the experimenting of what it looks like, putting maybe a Jalen Phillips inside, having Bradley rush outside with Chop and doing some moves and games. And I think that's such an intriguing element, getting your three best pass rushers on the field at the same time. Chop could end up being, a 10+ sack guy and may not have a single start, just based off the way that Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, they stay healthy. So I think that's the strength of this team. The front seven, and in particular edge rushers, if they're going to be a good defensive team, it's going to be because they're getting home, because they're causing chaos for offenses. Because as we know, the secondary's got a lot of question marks. So I'm eager to see Chop. Now, year two, they're going to have a little bit more tape on those moves. So I'm eager to see what he has in his bag this year. But he looks a stouter. He said he hasn't put on any weight, but he added more muscle, lost some body fat. So I think you'll see a even more explosive version of the Axeman.
It's pretty cool because I wanted to follow up with Kenny G after, but the fact that they're doing these NASCAR packages is going to be good because it keeps the kid fresh because he is a big boy. But I wanted to ask, we haven't heard too much about him yet. Today he had a couple of plays that we've seen, but I just wanted to kind of get your introspect on that as well.
Yeah, I think that I know Austin Clark and the way Weave works is kind of how they do it in Baltimore. They like to run rotations, right? So you have to have the depth to run rotations. So, Philly did it really well for many years where you see none of their defensive linemen eclipsing more than 50 to 60% of the snaps because you're just cycling them in. So you have like probably 5 or 6 starters, even if there's only 3 or 4 on the field. And so I think that's going to be the next level of the Dolphins. Can you get that amount of guys that you trust to where you don't feel like, dang, when I take KG off the field, it's a huge drop off. But I think they'll take care of him. Like you said, he is a big dude. He moves well, but those big dudes don't play 90% of the snaps most of the time. So you'll probably still see, some Benito Jones in there. Obviously, Zach Sieler is going to play a lot inside. You're going to see what Jordan Phillips can do. I think a lot of these guys are going to have a chance to prove them. And I wouldn't be surprised if they end up seeing if they can find another guy in that defensive line around cuts to just add into that rotation. So, but as far as just one day of pads, because you really can't tell anything about the linemen until they get in pads. KG held up well. I watched him a lot in one-on-ones. Him and Jonah had some fun battles, and you can see that physicality. And I know that was their focus point this offseason. They're tired of hearing people talk about they're not tough enough, they're not physical enough. So they got the two biggest dudes they can find and say, hope this helps.
And I'm kind of giving you whiplash here, going back to the offense. Last year, Mike McDaniel, he went away from the run and the deep ball last year for more conservative screen-based offense. Partly, let's be honest, partly due to personnel and some injuries. Have you seen anything that resembles the 2023 Dolphins offense in camp this year?
Yeah, man, we've seen some explosive plays downfield, especially Tyreek and Tua. They hit a couple of deep balls the last couple of days I've been out there. You can see kind of the just the confidence that Tua has, particularly with Tyreek, is still there despite all the chaos and noise. You don't have to feel like somebody's got a great relationship with you to hit a 60-yard deep ball down the field. It's not; those things are not mutually exclusive, and so that part looks good. It's tough to tell at this point. Like, is the running game going to be a better unit to be able to open up those deep balls in the game again? Because if you think about what's the difference between 23 and 24, less one-shot touchdown plays. And the reason for that was less about Tua and the receivers and more about the running game was not as productive as they were. And so teams can creep closer and closer and play closer and closer with their front, but also play that deep zone. And they really just forced them to have a lot of 15-play drives. And that's where the mistakes come in. So I'm eager to see once joint practices and camp starts, can they really open up those lanes in the running game, become more 4.5 yards per carry instead of 4 yards a carry, and that makes a big difference.
Real quick, perfect timing, I guess. Karen, $4.99 donation. Appreciate you. She wants to know, Cam, what do you have for us on that fight?
So I am a good guy to diagnose what we define as fights. I think this is a little bit more of a scuffle. This would be what I would describe as a scuffle. I don't know. A fight to me, both helmets got to be off. We got to be like swinging. I got to be trying to send you to your maker. That to me is a football fight. There's kerfuffles where there's a lot of pushing and shoving and holding me back where they don't really want to fight. This was a little past the kerfuffle, but not quite a fight. So scuffle is the right term. They were upset each other for probably 3 to 5 seconds, and then it kind of dispersed. But I'm pro scuffles, pro kerfuffles, not as much pro fights. That's when guys break eyes and break hands, and then you start looking at real injuries. So
there we go.
What the hell was I about to say?
Tua at camp, baby.
Yeah, but
is your mind kerfuffled?
Yeah,
I've given you guys new thoughts, new words, right?
I'm using that one. I'm keeping that one in my back pocket.
Yeah, kerfuffle.
So you spoke with Tua on NFL Network. Obviously, y'all did a segment with him. You recently spoke about like all the outside noise with Tua and Tyreek. What's kind of changed about Tua? Obviously, he seems to really be making an effort to step up into that leadership as a vocal leader. Otherwise, like instead of just a leader by example, he's really stepping up as like a vocal leader. What do you think's changing with Tua?
Yeah, I think he's growing into himself. He's his own man. I think that early in his life, he's coming from a situation where his parents are very hands-on on him. He was still trying to figure out who he is as a person. Now he's a father, a husband, got 2 kids, got a $200 million payday. Like he can live and create who he is. And so, like in particular to Tyreek, when we talked in that interview, I even said to him, I was like, I don't think you would have said these things.
Yeah, exactly.
Year 2. And he's like, no, I wouldn't, because I would have been so afraid of, am I talking bad about my teammates? What is the perception? And I think that's who he was. He was so much worried about everybody else's perception of him and what he did and what he said. How are my teammates going to receive this? What if I'm not a yeller? What if they want that? Should I do this? And you're worried so much about pleasing everyone that ultimately you please no one because they don't feel like you're the truest version of yourself. or you're not giving enough of that part that people need from you. So I think right now he's just like, I don't care. I'm going to say what I feel, what I think is the best. And he thinks it's important to hold Tyreek accountable. And honestly, I love this answer because to me, so much of what we get from players is kind of the fake button-up version of stuff of like, hey, yeah, we're all good, man. And secretly, they ain't talked to the dude in 2 months, And so he's laying out to us like, hey, man, Tyreek broke our trust, And Tua has been honest about like he treats these dudes as family, as brothers. I know he was hurt by it. Like he's had personal conversations with Tyreek and he's hurt by it. And just like anything, we get hurt by it. It takes time to heal. And so I don't think that this means they'll never have a great relationship again. But I think he's making clear that, I'm going to have to believe it when I see it. I'm not just going to trust that you're saying, we're good. I'm not going to make these mistakes again. We're gonna have to see it, and all of us are gonna have to see it. And until then, we're gonna be a little bit wary of your decision making. And I think that to me is accountability. That's the stuff that we talked about. They were lacking last year: discipline, somebody to tell people when they're wrong. I mean, the reality is, when you look at some of the elements of last year, not being on time, not being fully focused in meetings, not always being attentive. Those are things that happen through some of their best players, some of their leaders. And so that part has to be redefined. And the quarterback, no matter what his personality is, whether he says 1 word a day or 1,000 words a day, when he says something, people listen. And I guarantee you everybody in the locker room heard Tua when he said that to me. And they were like, okay, all right, that's what we're about. And, they're going to hold Tyreek accountable, I think, this year in a different level than they did in previous years.
Hey, I'm not going to lie. My boy's got a little different aura to him, too.
Yeah, he's talking a little different. People think he's talking about South Florida a little bit.
My thing going on.
Yeah, he's been on the boats a little bit. He's been out of South Florida.
He got the twist going.
Next thing you know, he's going to drop shit in an interview. I don't know.
I'm waiting for it, bro.
I'm sure people would love
made a
that.
post the other day. I said he's been in Broward way too long, bro.
Yeah. He gonna talk more like a Broward guy than an Alabama guy here soon.
Bro,
I think Quentin Bell's rubbing off on him.
Oh yeah. He definitely talked completely different, and even just a little more relaxed. Like talking to him off camera, just the way he talks, the way he jokes and laughs. I think that I really hope he stays healthy, because really that's the only thing I think that is separating his narrative from being, hey, what is the question mark around Tua every offseason to, hey, this is a really good quarterback. Like I think that Jared Goff has rewritten his narrative. So when you talk about Jared Goff now, it's an extremely positive view. This guy's a really good quarterback, and not he got dumped in LA for another quarterback. And I think Tua was right on the verge of rewriting his narrative to being all positive, and then he got hurt again last year. And so I really hope he gets healthy and stays healthy this year. So we're only talking about what he's doing on the field, because I think he truly is one of the best. You probably could put him in that 8 to 12 range in my book when he's fully healthy, and he could touch higher, as well. So I hope we get that version, because that version is pretty good.
By the way, shout out again, Noah Redstone with the donation, $4.99. He's asking something that everybody's asking right now in the streets. What's really going on with Zach Sieler's extension? I need some juice.
Yeah, he wants to be paid like one of the better defensive tackles in the league. And so this is a situation, right? Like I talked to a general manager about this type of deal, not just Sieler in particular, but before. It's often tough when you get a guy who is coming from the bottom to be able to rewrite the books of what you paid a position. They claimed Zach Sieler off of waivers. They paid him each time early before his extension was paid, probably a lower rate. And so they've kind of got this internal belief, I'm sure, where we groom this guy. We help make him, which I'm sure is part true, but But Zach's also done a lot of work towards himself, and sometimes it's hard to get the true evaluation of a contract there because Zach's agent, who's awesome, Drew Rosenhaus, is probably comparing his numbers and saying back-to-back 10-sack seasons, you should be getting paid $30+ million like a lot of these defensive tackles. Dolphins are like, wait. Not too long ago, you were a $1 million player, and maybe because of that, we view you as maybe a $15 to $20 million player. And a lot of times those are gaps. Jonah, similar situation, but less longevity. Zach's done it for a few years now. Jonah did it for 1 year. The Dolphins thought was, hey, you did that because our system, because we've got Tyreek and Waddle. Somebody had to get all the catches. It was a perfect storm. If Tyreek and Waddle healthy, productive all year, you wouldn't have those numbers. A lot of those goes in negotiations. They view Jonah as more of a $6 to $8 million player. Steelers viewed him as a $12 million player. That gap is why he's in Pittsburgh. And so I think Sieler's going to be here this year regardless. He's shown he's going to be in camp. I'm just not certain they'll get to a point where they have that number. And then, like Sieler's done in his career, he's going to have a choice where do I take the lesser team-friendly deal, which he has before, and make sure I get security for my family, more guarantees, or do I take the chance and maybe next offseason I get it somewhere else, and I think that's where we're at. So I think 2025, you'll see Sieler be here for sure, but I also think Chris Greer and the Dolphins have been burned a little bit recently by giving guys extensions, now different guys who were not Zach Sieler as far as character and demeanor, but giving guys a contract a little early, and now they're maybe regretting it a year later. And so I think this offseason they've shown a level of restraint with Zach, with Minka to an extent, with Jonah, that I think is going to define their offseason.
And situations matter. Listen, my wife wants to go to Aruba. If I don't got the money right now, I can't go to Aruba. We're going to have to wait a little bit. I got to save up, babe.
It is what it is.
Hit that super chat, baby.
Yeah, hit that super chat. Send Joe to Aruba. Cam, as Dolphins fans, the unfortunate reality of the last 5 years, going on 6 now, unfortunately, we saw some injuries early, especially Kader Kohu, already young secondary. He's the number one guy. He's our boundary guy, number one on the depth chart right now. You tweet, so there was, doom and gloom. Obviously, they're talking about he got carted off, all this and that. You tweeted out that, took a little brisk walk past you, looked okay. Now, unprofessional medical opinion, but still, give us your take on what you saw through Kader, because what we see on the timeline is like worst case scenario.
Yeah. First of all, it didn't look great when he got hurt, and you're always worried about that sort of thing. He was walking out in his own power, and he walked out off the field initially with a heavier limp. He walked by us a couple times in practice, gave me a head nod. And Kader's usually straight face serious. You can never get a read off of like what he's actually feeling, but he looked like a guy who was moving through, a non-season ending injury. Now, that being said, I've seen guys walk off the field with torn ACLs, and it's not a precursor. But I don't get the feel right now, at least, that this is a season-ending injury. I do know that he's been out of practice. He did go get testing at the nearby facility, came back, didn't have any wrapping on. Like today, for example, Ashton Davis, who did look like he may have suffered a serious injury, immediately came back in practice with a boot and crutches on, like within 15, 20 minutes of being hurt. That wasn't the case for Kader. He's walking around the facility, regular feet. And so, like I said, I'm not a doctor, but typically to me that says maybe this is days or weeks injury instead of months or seasons. But I will say, like, he's on Instagram posting like 20, 30 pictures.
We saw that.
Yeah, we saw that.
Guys in this new generation are different, but that, like, it almost felt like somber, like, hey, I love ball and be away from it. So, like, that had me questioning, like, did I read this whole thing wrong? Like, was he limping more than I saw? But I don't know, man. These kids are getting younger and younger, so it could mean nothing. It could mean completely nothing from what I'm thinking. But we did not see him out on the field, like even sitting and watching today. So he's still getting rehab. I know Mike McDaniel will talk tomorrow, I believe, and so I'm sure he'll get asked and we'll get some sort of update. But I believe if we had the torn ACL or a season-ending injury, you guys would know it by now.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I literally told the guys last night, I said, either Cater was told he's getting his foot cut off or he's fine, because this dude just gassed his story with like 37 pictures of him. Like, I was like, I think he's good, boys.
Yeah.
But anyways, who is your surprise player so far in camp? Good or bad? Like, what is something that has surprised you the most?
The linebacker room is really fast. Willie Gay brings a ton of energy. And I think that I don't know how it works out, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if they end up with two true inside backers, if it's Jordan Brooks and Willie Gay, the first two out there on the field. And I think that there's a lot more speed, which helps them with tight ends, with running backs,
Josh Allen.
With Josh Allen. And so, a guy who's played Josh Allen a bunch, playing in KC, and Willie Gay. So to me, that's probably the thing that jumped out the most, especially on defense for sure. On offense, I'm trying to think. I don't know if there's been a lot of major surprises. Yeah, I don't know if I've seen anything that's jumped out at me. I will say, like, Quinn Ewers looks better this week of camp. Okay. I was very worried in OTAs because it did not look great. I'll just say that I am not in a position usually to like lobby any like negativity on guys, especially in April when they just showed up. But I was wondering, like, where did they get this guy from for a while? And it looked a lot better, I will just say. So massive improvement. Understand now a little bit more. Maybe he was still hurt, but it's a different guy than we saw in OTA. So I think that's more of a surprise from like, okay, now I can envision you being a long-term backup based off of this week of play. Before, I wasn't sure if you were going to even make the practice squad based off of what we were seeing on the field.
What's crazy is, so Cater's out, and we got a plethora of young guys at corner right now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's ridiculous. But one of them that seems to be standing out is Jason Marshall. I was just wondering if you were able to kind of follow him a little bit. How's he looking?
Yeah, he had a nice pass breakup in one-on-ones today. A lot of the young corners getting a lot more reps. Him, I saw Ethan Bonner out there a little bit more. Isaiah Johnson's been getting some burn. I think it's really like cream rising to the top. Like, that group has been snake bitten more than any other group. You got Cater gone, for a little bit at least. They got who was it? They got hurt only. Well, Iffy in the safety room, but why am I blanking? Who's the guy that got hurt?
Oh, BJ Adams.
No. BJ Adams, yes, but early on in camp.
Was it?
Why am I blanking?
Miami Hurricane.
Out for the season. Artie Burns.
Artie Burns.
Yeah, Artie Burns. Yeah, Artie Burns.
It's been a week, but it feels like a month.
I know, right? So many other guys that got hurt since, but Artie Burns got hurt, and he was probably going to be their fourth or fifth corner. So these are guys who are going to make the roster. Cater is going to be their best corner. Artie Burns is going to be their fourth or fifth corner. BJ was competing for a roster spot in practice. So now a lot of these young dudes are getting more reps. And, the main thing, like their cornerback coach, Matt Araujo's got to get them ready to know what they're doing. Like, they're playing a preseason game next week. Guys who may have been the third team getting 2 reps, or all of a sudden now you're second team and you're going to be playing half the game. And so I'm eager to see them get thrown to the fire a little bit, especially when they go up to joints in preseason. And they usually find a gem in the cornerback room every year. So maybe it's Jason Marshall, maybe it's someone else, but I think that, they will have to add more to this cornerback room, even more than Mike Hilton and Jack Jones. But I think right now it's a good opportunity for them to see, can we find a diamond, through more reps than we would have found otherwise.
Yeah, and speaking of a diamond in the rough, Tanner Connor, friend of the pod, spoke today. Friend of the pod. We always do that. It's like a fun thing we do.
Good dude.
He's awesome.
Yeah, so he spoke today. He had some interesting comments about players who might not have been as respectful as they should be that are gone now. Yeah. Have you noticed the shift in McDaniel this offseason?
You know what? I don't know if I've seen a ton of shift in McDaniel himself. I will say that, and this is more of the team's perspective, which is probably what Tanner is speaking on. They felt like they made some addition by subtraction this offseason. And you couldn't guess based off of some of the guys that left, but like bigger personalities, guys who, may not have been fully bought into what Mike was doing. And very clearly, Jalen Ramsey was one of those guys, like, where for whatever reason, and I know they have their reasons and I know some of them, they just were not at that stage feeling what Mike in the direction he's leading the team. And so it's hard to build a program and build a level of discipline, a level of accountability within a group when some of your best players don't believe in the mission. Now, you can have your arguments on if they're right. They may be right. Those guys, like, we're only hearing the guys who were left behind. And the guy, like, you could come back to it in a year from now, say, you know what, Jalen Ramsey was right. But he may not have been right, and he wasn't the only one. And so I think that's what they're speaking of that. Like, it's not all of a sudden Mike's coming in with this iron fist and it's like, you know what, forget all the jokes this year. Now we're being serious. I think that would be fake. I think guys would be like, what? Like, that's not you. He's still the same guy that's making all the jokes. Still the same guy that's pretty long-winded when he's trying to tell a story. It's that element has not changed. I just think that the guys who are now the new leaders within the program are a little bit more bought in, and they're hoping that they can sell the message a little bit more, and they're hoping the results will change there. I still got to see it, just like Tyreek behaving well throughout a year.
Yeah.
You got to see it to believe it, but right now I think that's a lot of the elements that you're seeing the team talk about.
Yeah, and there's a few guys that we just kind of want to ask about. I know that we're trying to fit so much content in here that we've just been dying to know on the timeline a little bit more about, because training camp, you just get bits and pieces, then it goes away, comes back. But there's three guys specifically. You can take them one by one, Cam. All right. We got Jack Jones, Mike Hilton, and the guy who has been an enigma since he's been on this team is Easy Eric Ezekama.
Yep. Just them in general. You just want to talk
just
about
them in general, man.
Okay,
We've got listen, and the reason why I asked.
No worries. I'll work backwards.
Work backwards. Perfect.
It's funny. He made a really good play in practice today, and not gonna lie, this is not a joke towards Eazy. I had to look down and make sure like the number matching to the name, because he changes his number every year, and so you can't really figure out who is who. He always looks built. Like every time I come to camp, you kind of forget about him because he's not performing on the field during the season, and he makes a play, and you're like, who is that? You look, and it's like, oh, that's Ezekama. He's been here like 3 years. But every year you get reminded what kind of physical specimen he is. He made a play today. I think it was 7-on-7s where he made a deep ball and caught it over one of the corners, and he started to look at him and give him a little extra after the play. And I'm like, okay, maybe Easy got a little confidence in him. I think for him, he's got to put it through a whole camp, because too often we've seen flashes and then he'll get hurt or it's just not producing in the preseason. And so like that back of the receiver room is open. Like you got the first 3 or 4 set, but after that, fighting for that 5th or 6th spot, playing some special teams, I think that's wide open for Ezekama to get in and make this team that way. But he's got to do it through all camp and preseason. And then the other 2 corners, Jack Jones, Mike Hilton. Jack Jones is certainly very talented. The reason that he is available now is because he has a reputation around the league of being a headache. He got released from New England because he was late, kept missing curfew. The Raiders, it was more assignment driven, not necessarily doing the right play all the time, and had a rough year on the field. He even mentioned it when he talked to the media of like, I'm too good of a player to be on 3 teams in 4 years. And from what I understood, the Dolphins gave him a contract where it's essentially 1 striking you're out type deal. They don't have a lot of ties to him as far as guarantees. And so it's a really like, hey, if you show us, or you're not here. And so this is a low risk, medium to high upside. If Jack Jones is locked in on time, knowing the playbook, knowing what he's supposed to do, we saw him in his peak, and he can be a starting top, maybe a number 2 corner for a solid team. And so But man, Miami's a tough place to get your act right at. I don't know, man. Like I'm hopeful. He said that he's at a different place in life, but I gotta see it, man. There's not a lot of dudes I know that go to Miami and all of a sudden turn their life around. But that's what I'll say there. I want Jack Jones to be right in this transition. But again, that's one of those. Greer has a knack for some of these. Like, I'm gonna take a risk on a talented dude at low money and see if it works. And whether it's Robert Kimdichie some years ago, Mark Walden, a lot of these have not worked. So I hope Jack Jones is different. But that's my thought there of like, we got to see it. Mike Hilton, very good dude. Very good dude. You don't have to worry about him off the field. He's getting older. That's the reason he's on the streets. He's a 5'9" player who's now over 30 years old. Those guys start to get a little bit out of, but I'll tell you this, he's a dog. A dog. Like you put on some Mike Hilton tape, it will juice you up. He's a 5'9", 180-pound dude, and he'll try to run Derrick Henry through a wall. He's not going to succeed, but he will try. Like, he's got that mentality. He's a really good run stuffer. They used him off the edge a lot as a blitzer. At his heyday, he was like one of the best nickel corners in the game. He may have lost a step or two from the coverage standpoint, but I think that he's never afraid to be around the ball, physicality, and his leadership. Like, he in that Bengals locker room, every time that I went in that locker room, he would be the guy that people would listen to. Like, his voice carries weight. So for a team and a secondary in particular that is missing some of that veteran experience, that veteran dog, I think Mike Hilton is going to bring that in immediately. So I think he's going to be a great fit. Is he going to lock down a receiver every snap? Probably not. But I'll tell you what, you're not going to have any questions about his effort. You're not going to have any questions about his tackling or his physicality. And to me, I take a bet on that type of guy anytime.
And I will say, Chris Greer should know that Tootsie's is like 15 minutes from the facility, so he should probably know that.
Jack Jones, stay out of Tootsie's, baby.
If guys want to find trouble, they will have no issue finding it in South Florida. So you got to be really committed. You got to be really committed to the bit of changing your life.
Last question, Cam, and we'll get out of here. I do want to give a shout out to the chat. The chat's been crazy. I hope you've been looking over a little bit, Cam. People love you, man. You know that. I mean, everybody loves hearing from you. The insight has been awesome, so we can't thank you enough for your time. Obviously, you're always welcome here. But just give us kind of your perspective on some moves have been made now. We're kind of close to what we're going to have. Where does the Dolphins stack up in the AFC East?
Yeah, right now, the Kings stay the king until you knock them off.
Yep.
And Buffalo is the best team in the division. Nothing's changed. This may be the biggest gap that I've thought of in a while, honestly. I'm just going to keep it real with you. That's the only way I know how to do it. I think in previous years, I would have said, hey, neck and neck. It can go either way. Right now, just putting it on paper, the Bills are probably 2 or 3 games better than everybody in the division if everything goes right. Just based off what I've seen, they're probably competing for the 1 seed in the AFC just based off of their production. Now, that 2 spot can go any way, and I think that the Dolphins still, to me, have the greatest upside in the division because of their talent on the offensive side of the ball, all that speed, the quarterback staying healthy. We've seen them be a playoff team in 2 of the last 3 years. We've seen them have the number 1 ranked offense. New England and New York Jets are not going to have a top-ranked offense. They're going to struggle to be average at best. Their hope is they can grit it up enough on defense. Both of those teams got better on defense. And in New England in particular, they got a young quarterback that's rising. Now, I think they're probably still a year or 2 away. So I think, maybe 2026, 2027, we'd be talking about the Patriots maybe surpassing the Dolphins if they don't turn things around. But right now, I'd still put Miami at 2. I still will probably put the Jets at 3. And then I'll put New England at 4 in my AFC East rankings.
That's fair.
Fair.
I think so. That's as objective as I think it could possibly get.
Yeah.
I was going to argue, and I was like, damn, he's kind of cooking.
You can't argue that.
Yeah. I mean, I do believe a little bit in Justin Fields. I do think that they will be better. The Jets will than last year, but I still don't think they're a playoff team. I think last year they were maybe five wins. I could see them being around the 7 to 8 win, mark, and I see Miami's probably somewhere in that 8 to 10 win mark right now. Could they get to 11? Maybe, but right now I think they're right in that middle of we're fighting for that 7th AFC playoff spot in December and January.
It's time to shock the world, Cam.
Let's see it. Let's see
It's time
it.
to shock the
The message
world.
of this all season is show us. Let's see it. Whether it's Tyreek, whether it's the Dolphins, I think there's been a lot of belief in this fan base, and I love the Dolphins fan base because just it can be pessimistic or optimistic either way, and this is the time for optimism. But I think there's a lot the Dolphins got to show us, and it would be great for the fan base's sake if they came out and started off 2 or 3-0 and ease a little bit of the stress. So we'll see. I mean, good matchup with Indy early on to try to start the season right.
Yeah.
Real quick, because I'm just thinking about this. We're bringing breaking house rules back or what?
So we're talking about it. Javon's in a different team, different city, different people in charge, and not everybody loves everything that comes from breaking house rules. So we're working through some things. I think that we'd love to have it back. I don't know if we're going to be able to bring it back in the same capacity with Javon being a full-time person there just because of logistics. And so Von definitely still wants to do it. It's just, different place, different elements there. So we're working through it. If we do continue it, it may just be a capacity where it's me and our other coach, Dre, and Javon may come on as an occasional guest, or we lean more into the guest factor. We're just talking through a lot of that because we like what we had going on, and we had got a pretty good flow towards the end.
Yeah.
But he signed a new deal with a new place with a coach and a GM who are at an interesting place in their career. So we'll keep you posted. We'll have more news coming up in August of what our new element of breaking house rules will look like.
Cool deal. And the last thing I'll say, I promise, because somebody wanted to ask this, and I know I've seen you're big about this right now. Somebody want to know about your workout routine because I know you've been going hard. You're proud of your weekly record. So I want to give you a chance to talk about that. Yeah.
I've talked more about my working out on live TV than I ever imagined I would in my life. Shout out Tyreek for a random mention in the middle of a press conference that has gone everywhere. More people have talked to me about that than my work in the last 3. Hey man, what's the workout routine? I heard Tyreek shout you out. And it's actually been pretty rough for me in my gym because anytime I go in, if I slack off an inch, that's the first comment. Oh man, you got to get it up, man. Tyreek's watching. Can I not struggle through some burpees without living it good, But I definitely do a lot of HIIT workouts,
Nice.
Kind of like high intensity endurance training and lifting, and so I feel stronger than I ever have. I've lost probably 25 pounds since the end of last season.
Damn, let's go.
But I've
Go,
got
baby.
stronger. I'm lifting more than I've ever lifted in my life. I was benching 285 the other day. I'm trying to get over the 315 threshold, and I'm working towards it. I got some goals, and man, it's great. Like, it's something good for my health, and I do it for my own accountability. But it's been fun to kind of give us some exposure to it nationally, and hopefully get some people into fitness themselves.
Yeah, I like keeping up with your weekly records. It's pretty cool to see. And you're
Yeah,
transparent
I've
about
been
it. I
good.
love transparency.
Yeah, absolutely. I lost a week recently when I did some vacay. I had won 20 straight weeks, and I had to tell people I lost. It kicked my butt travel, and I got back on the horse. So every week's a new battle.
Heck yeah. All right, well, Cam, appreciate you always, man. Thanks you for your time. Thank you, chat.
Absolutely.
Eric, send us out, baby.